Good evening, San Diego, and good evening, America. This is Justin at Seeking Context, speaking today with Alycia Noel and LeAnne Adams, who were both interview guests on Seeking Context. LeAnne Adams was on episode 40, The Elephant and the Skunk, and Alycia Noel was on episode 3. And we both shared both of their conversations today on Moments of Light, because my conversations with both of you were very enlightening, and I am proud to call you friends. It's an honor to know both of you. And so what I wanted to talk about today was in our conversations, this week is Easter week. Passover is on Wednesday and Easter is on Sunday. And LeAnne you talked about your granddad and him introducing you to the Jewish traditions and the synagogue and all of the how much you loved the Judaism you were raised in as a child. And Alycia, you talked about your grandmother sharing her experience and her love of the Lord and how you sort of she introduced you to, the Christian faith and the teachings. And so I wanted to find out from LeAnne and Alycia, like what you love about celebrating Passover and Easter, these two holidays, which sort of connect the two faiths, because the Last Supper was a Passover Seder. So that doesn't seem accidental to me. No. And so I guess I'll start with LeAnne, and I will say, when Christians go to a Passover Seder, we say Chag Samich. Which is a funny story that the first time I went to LeAnne's house, we looked up what to say, and we didn't know how to pronounce Chag Sameach. But we were trying our best.
It was very sweet. They were Passover guests in the first Passover in lockdown COVID, and so they had researched the Hebrew greeting that you say at a holiday, and they came in and said it's pronounced Hag Sameach, and they came in and said they were all eager, and they came in and said Chag Samich, wondering what. It was so great. So now we say that all the time, for every Jewish holiday. So it's the blanket greeting, Chag Samich.
Oh, that's precious.
Yeah, well, Justin, it's an honor to be your friend as well. So I feel that. And Alycia, it's very nice to meet you here today. And
me too.
Yeah. So I'm starting talking about my grandparents and well, it wasn't just my grandfather, it was my grandmother too. And they just had a really organic, lovely Jewish household. And we celebrated the holidays there. And Passover especially is my favorite holiday. We tell, it's incumbent upon us to tell the story of the Exodus and teach it to the children. And we prop up the youngest child on a chair, and they have to ask 4 questions. And the 4 questions it begins with, why is this night different than all other nights? And that starts our telling of, why we do this. And we do this with a Seder dinner. And Seder means order. And there's an order of things that we do in order to tell the story, and not just tell the story, to really flesh the story out, ask a lot of questions and answer those questions, and really enlighten the child about what their heritage is. And I feel like that was really given to me in so many ways from my family, my grandparents. And it was a long evening. I mean, it's supposed to be. It's a lot of discussion. It's a lot of ritual. Oh, I think we lost Justin, but we're supposed to keep talking.
Okay.
It's a lot of ritual before you get to the meal, and the meal is delicious. I mean, there's just all this really delicious traditional food, but before you get there, you have to do a lot of ritual and a lot of praying and a lot of listening to the stories, a lot of sort of incomprehensible Hebrew, and so we would get a little impatient, and just sort of say, okay, can't we just skip? Because everybody has a book. It's called a Haggadah, and Haggadah means the telling. And basically, we would say, can't we skip to Shulchan Orech, which is the festive meal? But you have to do a lot of things before you get there. But children in Jewish households are really encouraged. We're encouraged to be ask questions and to to be there. So we were allowed to kind of like climb around under the table if we were really young, and just sort of, they tried to make it as compelling as they could, and they really did try to teach us. But we were also enabled to just have a lot of fun too, because the Jewish holiday is all about family and being together and and having a great time.
That's wonderful.
Hey, you're back.
You're back.
Kept talking.
Started watching it on my phone. My internet connection was gone. So anyway, please continue.
Yeah, well, I just basically summed it up that, that we were just really, encouraged to learn and to ask questions. And it's just, Passover continues to be my favorite holiday. I love the message. And I mean, I learned at a very early age that, like, slavery is terrible. And as long as anyone is enslaved, nobody is free. And it was a great, thing to learn at a really early age. And I sort of like grew up knowing that, but then, would contemplate it in different ways as I got older. And I'm always reminded of it on Passover. And yeah, and there's just a lot of great things that go along with it. There's a lot of singing, there's a lot of good food, and that great story. I mean, one of the best stories ever told, really, is the Exodus.
And when you said the core message, what would you say to you is the core message?
The core message is freedom, how important freedom is, and freedom for every single person, and not to stand by if you're seeing enslaved just systems that enslave you for whatever reason that is. You're supposed to stand up and try to, fight against it. And because, I mean, we tell the whole story about how, the enslaved Jews really sort of like lost their identity, and it took them a long time to get that back and to, build their community back. They made a lot of mistakes wandering around there in the desert, building the golden calf, all that stuff. And so it's just that message is really given to us as small children, because we prop that smallest child up there on the chair, have them ask the question, and then really try to teach that to them. Not just the story, but the message from the story that, slavery is wrong and you can't enslave anyone, and you should recognize the psychological damage of enslaved people and try to help them.
Cool. Well, Alycia, tell me about your grandmother and your family's Easter traditions.
Okay. Well, first of all, Miss LeAnne, that is just so beautiful. And we were always encouraged to learn more about Passover. And when I was in college in Heidelberg, Ohio, there is a big Jewish community in Cleveland. And my best friend was Jewish. So I went to her home for a lot of the holidays and did the Seder meal with her.
Oh, nice.
And I just loved it. How, like you said, there was singing and the food was good, and you passed the wine and you said Seder meant order, and that's where I learned what that meant. And everything was done in an order, and it was just it was wonderful. So we were encouraged to learn about Passover with my grandmother. And then, of course, we had our Easter meal. And that was always, like my daddy would say, ham, ram, beef, and buffalo. We just had a lot of different meats and things, but it was a traditional Easter meal. Potato salad and candied yams and everything you eat in Appalachia. So,
nice. Yum.
Yum. That's right. Dandelion greens. I mean, they just grew right there in the yard. So we just go out and pick them. But yeah, it was wonderful. Um, my grandmother, even though she would give us Easter baskets, and now it's she would leave the candy in the baskets, but she would actually take out the bunnies and all the chickens and everything, and she would put religious things in the basket, not the traditional, like you go to the store or Walmart and you have the basket with all the bunnies and eggs, and she says, that's not what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about our Jewish Savior. And she made a point of that, that Jesus was Jewish, and we should never, ever, try to make him anything else except what he was. But I just thought that was interesting. She would just take all those things out of there. It was
but you got treats, right? You got treats in the basket.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It would have the candies and all that, but she would take it out and say it's not about the bunnies and the chickens.
Yeah, that's
about our Jewish Savior. It's like, wow. So it was pretty interesting that way. But good stuff.
Well, my daughters, I would make all the traditional food, and I love gefilte fish. Did you have that when you went to the Jewish Savior?
Yes.
I mean, the traditional gefilte fish gefilte means stuffed, so it's an actual fish, and you stuff the fish. But I make it in a more just a more modern way. I would make it into like fish balls, but I would make a fish stock, and it would stink up the house. And so my daughters, especially my older daughter, would go down to the neighbors and dye Easter eggs with our neighbor Laura Leaf, because she was like, "It's disgusting, gefilte fish." And then I also liked to make the story really interesting. We would talk about the plagues, and I would get little, like the plagues. There would be like blood and frogs and lice, and I would get like little black beads for lice, and I'd throw them at everyone, and then I'd get like little theatrical blood and squirt it around, and plastic frogs. And one year, my older daughter Ella we were shopping for the plagues. And she said, "Mom, all my friends are shopping for pastel Easter dresses and hats with flowers, and we're shopping for plagues."
Plagues and fake blood.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Oh, how that's funny. Oh my goodness.
I always thought the Easter tradition of like hiding eggs was cool, and decorating them and hiding them. And we do eggs too in our tradition, but we bake them. It's like a symbolic of, we put them on the Seder plate, and it's symbolic of the rite of spring, because this is a rite of spring holiday.
Yes.
I think that's similar in Easter, as far as I know.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah.
Well, both holidays are kind of about a new life for your people, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm curious, LeAnne, I read this thing yesterday. I've never really understood the unleavened bread. And I read something yesterday that said, well, it's like we're leaving. This phase is over, and we have to leave before we're going to be out of here before bread can rise.
Right.
So is that basically it? It's like we're leaving in the morning, so just eat some crackers. Is that?
Well, yeah, that's sort of an overview of the reason for the matzah. But the matzah is like, we're supposed to enter the Seder as slaves. We're supposed to feel as though we're slaves, and the whole order of the Seder liberates us. And so the matzah is this flat, unleavened bread where you're like flattened. You're flattened by slavery. So that's one of its, symbolic meanings. And we put 3 matzahs on the plate, the Seder plate, at the beginning of the meal. And the first one, there are, like 3 levels of Jews. There's the Kohanim, which are the priestly sect, and then there's the Levites, and they were, servants of the priests. They they had more status. And then they're just like the regular Jews, that Israelites, that's what I am. I'm not like priestly or any upper caste. I'm sort of like one of the ditch digger Jews. And so they have the 3 matzahs representing those sect really of Jews, and Moses was a Levite. And so he was one of the middle sections. So we take that middle matzah and we break it. And we start out broken. We start doing that at the beginning of the Seder. We break that matzah. And one half is called the afikomen. Have you guys ever heard of the afikomen? If you've been to a Seder, you probably know the afikomen is hidden. And it's actually a Greek word. And the afikomen, and then you hide that, and the little kids are given a chance, like after they eat the festive meal, the little kids go and they look around for the afikomen and they find it, and they ransom, like the Seder meal can't end until the afikomen is returned, and then it's like pieced together with the original form of the matzah, so you know it's the real thing. And that's also symbolic of, you know, the broken Jews when they were slaves, and Moses being hidden, because Moses was hidden in a little he was hidden from the Egyptians early on. You know, he was hidden in a reed basket, and he was sent out into the Nile, and then he was actually raised in the Pharaoh's castle. So he was always a hidden Jew. And Moses is not mentioned at all in the Haggadah, in the telling of the Exodus. Moses is not mentioned. And so that's like symbolic of Moses also is the matzah. So the matzah has lots of meaning. But the simple telling of the reason we eat unleavened bread for all of Passover is because, you know, we had to hurry, and we didn't have time for our bread to rise. So we eat it.
That's cool. Well, I wanted to ask you both also, you're both, I would say you're probably the two most prayerful women I've ever met. LeAnne, do you have like a special prayer that's meaningful to you at Passover?
Oh yeah, there are a lot of them. I mean, I like all the ritual prayers. I mean, all the prayers that kind of keep you going through I love the prayer that you say for special occasions. It's called the Shehecheyanu. And it's like, you know, thank you, God, for giving us the opportunity to do this at this time. You do that for all holidays, and also basically anything you're doing for the first time. Like the other night I had Shabbat dinner, and I had some friends over, and those friends had never been at my house with my daughter. My daughter Ella was there, and so we said that blessing. So I really love that one. And then mostly the songs, like I love the songs that you sing. Songs at the end of the Seder. Yeah, those are just really fun.
And how about you, Alycia? You have any favorite prayers or songs? You must have favorite songs.
Yes, I just, what is it? It's Numbers. Is it 6:24? No, that doesn't sound right. Yeah. Yep, it's number 6:24. It says, and I will quote it here, and I'm sure Miss LeAnne knows this. It says, the Lord, speaking unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, on this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, the Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. And believe it or not, that was what my grandmother prayed during the Easter meal, was from Numbers 6:23 through 27.
That's so cool. I want to show you something I have. That's called the Birchat Kohanim, what you just quoted. And I have that framed.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, yes.
And we say that in our morning blessings at the Birchat Kohanim.
Oh my goodness.
I can chant it for you in Hebrew if you want.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha vechunecha. Isa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom. Ve'asem lecha shalom.
Wow.
That is so cool.
That's so cool too. That you like that, because that's
Mhm.
beautiful. I mean, that's such a lovely sentiment.
That is beautiful.
Well, it's really beautiful that you brought it up.
Mhm. Yeah, no coincidence, right, sister?
No
No,
coincidence.
no.
Doesn't seem coincidental.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's one of those woodcuts. I got that the thing I showed you is framed. I got that in Israel. It's really, I really treasure it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm not able to fly by air anymore with my illness, but Israel, that was on my bucket list. But
Take a boat.
Yeah, that's true. I could take the cruise. But yeah.
It's really interesting. It's a really interesting place. I mean, they're having some serious problems right now. But I have a really good friend who's just came back from there. She was there in all the crazy political upheaval. She still said she had a fantastic trip, but I actually haven't gotten together with her. It's Rachel, Justin. Rachel Mills.
Cool.
Yeah. And she's loved it. Even it was such an exciting time to be there too. So but we have a plan to have dinner together soon, and she's going to tell me all about it.
Yeah, when I was in Israel, it seems like they sort of thrive on intensity.
They're intense. Yeah, it's an intense place to be. I've lived there for extended periods of time, 2 different times. The first time I lived there nearly 2 years, and then the second time I lived there for a year. So I've lived in Israel for almost 3 years, and I always have to get away after about 6 months or so. I've got to like go over to Turkey or something, and where it's mellower. Greece.
Just kind of laid back, right?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Well, and I have a question for Alycia or LeAnne. Any special plans this week? What are you doing at the Wesleyan Church? You got any special music or special celebration this week for Easter?
Well, we're having our Easter breakfast at 9:00 instead of our regular Sunday school, and it's just like a potluck. And then Tiffany Martin, she's the director of KGCR. She is preaching this Sunday on Easter Sunday. So, and then after that, I think we're going to the country club for lunch.
All right.
Because they're having a nice buffet. And so I thought, what's that? I'm sorry.
Maybe I'll meet you there.
Oh, you're going too?
Well, I am now. Now that I know you're going, I'll go to the country club.
I'll save you a seat.
Nice. I wish I could.
All right. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I've been invited to a Seder with I've hosted one for the last many years. I mean, I frequently host Seders. I always did when I lived at home with my children, and then I did it always in lockdown COVID. And I joked that I was never going to invite Jews to my Seders anymore, because when Justin and his ex-husband Matthew and our friend Justin, all the germ pod people that we quarantined with, I was the only Jew. So Passover was my favorite holiday. So I thought I'll just, host this Seder and invite my germ pod. And they were all so into it. They were just like asking a lot of questions and just like paid attention the whole night, where that's never like that with Jews, because the Jews are always like, oh, can't we skip this part? And, we're sort of an argumentative people in general. And so, particularly my daughters, they were like, can't we just skip to, Shulchan Orech, which is the festive meal. But none of the germ pod did that. They were asking a million questions, and it went late into the night. It's what a Seder is supposed to be. And they were such an accommodating. They were such
germ pod. I like that. Oh my
That's
goodness.
hilarious that you thought that, because we all talked so loud and there was so much. I thought that we were disruptive. I was like,
No,
oh,
well,
I bet this isn't like.
no, that's what the Seder's like. It's like, it's lively. Everybody's supposed to, you
Uh-huh.
know, join in, and it's like, yeah, you can cause all the trouble you want, but especially when you're interested in it, that's the point. We're supposed to be telling the story. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I did think it was funny. Our youngest, the child that had to stand up and read on the chair, was 38 years old.
He was 30 years old, and he really took it seriously. He practiced. He learned the questions in Hebrew, and he
Oh
did
my
it.
goodness.
It was so great. The chair, we were worried about him because he was on those folding chairs, so we made him stand on the cedar chest.
Not the Seder chest, but the cedar chest.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Well, I just loved going to the Seder meal with my girlfriend in college. And she was so funny. She would poke me under the table, and I said, "Oh, don't do that. I'm listening. I'm trying to listen." But she was just like, "No, it's okay. We're just here to have fun." And it was lovely. I just loved it. I
Yep.
just loved it.
I
And I loved how everything on the plate had a special part on the plate. Are
Yeah.
there 7? Is that right?
all the ritual food and the meaningful food on the Seder plate you're talking about.
Yes. Are there 7?
I think there are seven things. Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. They differ sometimes. Sometimes
Mhm.
there'll be like bitter herbs and then another thing like lettuce. And sometimes those are combined in one.
Mhm.
So there's, 6, 7 around
Mhm.
that many.
Yeah. Yep. Give me matzo soup and matzo balls anytime.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're usually so starved by the time
Yeah.
you get that it's the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so good. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Why don't Christians celebrate Passover
A lot
Seder?
of Christian churches I'm finding, hearing that they do. They'll have Passover Seders. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Do they
And
have to invite somebody to tell them how to do it?
Yeah, maybe they need like Jewish consultants.
We do.
Mhm.
Kind of
Yeah.
like, who's the guy at your synagogue that runs the sound and the windows and the cleans things?
Renee, yeah.
Mhm.
We need a Jewish Renee.
Yeah.
Yep. I
Every
think that's really neat though, like what you're saying there, sister. A lot of the Christian churches are starting to understand the importance of the Passover and incorporating it in with Easter. So, yeah, and I just think that is so beautiful. To me, you cannot have Easter without the Passover. They just kind of blend, the whole story behind it and everything.
Yeah, well, you guys learn that, right? That's part of your
Yeah.
catechism. You learn
Mhm.
the Old Testament. Yeah.
Yes.
Although there's a lot of Christian um, groups that I don't think look at the Old Testament at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's right, Brother Justin. They don't study the Old Testament because that was then and this is now. And I said, but that is history. If you take away the Old Testament, you don't have the New Testament. So
right.
it's just lovely to study all the books together
Yeah.
and
We don't do the New Testament. We just do the Old Testament over and over and over again.
Mhm.
They have pretty good stories in the Old Testament.
Yes.
Good stories. You
Really
can make
good.
500 movies with these
Yeah.
things.
I mean, one of the best reasons I think to learn the Old Testament is that so much of just all literature
Mhm.
referring to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. All the kings and everything. Just
Yeah.
I just and the Psalms. We're as a matter of fact, in our Wednesday night study, we are going through all the Psalms now, and it is just beautiful.
Psalms are beautiful. Yeah.
And I'm learning that they're written in 5 books, and each section of the Psalms refers to, like, the first set. I think it's the first 40 refer to the book of Genesis. The next one is the book of Exodus. Then you have the Leviticus and then Numbers. And then the last set, fifth set, is Deuteronomy. So it's really neat how they grouped it. Not a coincidence.
No, the Psalms are so beautiful and compact. And every time I study them, I learn something new. And I've been reading and rereading Psalms and studying them for decades. And they're really wonderful.
Yes, beautiful. Okay.
Cool. Well, any other big stories that you want to share? That's kind of the end of my questions. I was wanting to let you two meet and share, there's separate but common heritage.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful to meet you, my sister.
You too.
I hope to get to San Diego someday and just give you a big old hug.
Oh, that's good. Well, I feel your very kind energy and your hug coming through, even on the electronics here, and I send one back to you too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to plan a trip on the QE2 so we can get over to Israel.
There we go. Yes.
Well, actually, we were talking about that. They have cruise ships, that go, like they move from the United States to the Mediterranean or wherever they go to do their next leg of their season. So she could go over on a cruise ship or get close enough, like into Europe or someplace close, so we could just drive over, take a train or something. Yeah. So that was the plan. I think we're going to get there, except that, where is she going to find the time to take a 3-week, trip over to Europe? I mean, after all, the food pantry collapsed, the Minister Alliance would collapse. The trailer court would go up in smoke. We come back and be like a nuclear blast in Oakley. Everybody'd be, passed away. What's that?
Just have to make.
Well, I understand. I'm just making a joke.
And I just have to be. I have to be close to medical care. Just close enough in case something happens. But hey, it's all in God's hands, right?
Hey, well, if you're in need of healing, tell me what's your mother's name?
My mother's name was Erlyn.
Erlyn.
Erlyne.
All right. I'll put you on my prayer. We say something called the Birchat Holim, which is the prayer for healing. And we say the names out loud. And it's like whatever your name is, and then daughter of Erlyn. So I'll put you on my list. So, won't hurt to have the Jews praying. We say all the names and then everybody says the prayer together. So.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for that. Yes.
It's my pleasure.
Yes. And is there anything that I can pray for you about, Sister LeAnne?
Let's see. I'm sure there's so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What? Go ahead.
I was going to say that LeAnne is a teacher at a school that has a lot of troubled kids.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess pray for my patients.
Okay. Pray for and your students too.
Oh, my students need it so much. Okay. Yeah, they're just like, locked down in poverty and just.
So that's something else that we have in common. Our love for the Lord, and poverty? We were both teachers.
Yeah.
Coming from.
I'm saying poverty. She helps the children and the poor, and you're helping people at the food pantry.
And I'm helping people at the food pantry. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, and I hear you, Gar. We're just going to have to tell Alycia she can go away for 3 weeks, and people here will pick up the pieces. This is what I urge my mother. You don't have to do everything.
Yeah. Alycia, if you're able to swing it, let me know, and I will give you some things to see and people to meet over there.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much.
You may have to make time to go with her because she's going to want a tour guide, and she has, not that I need you along.
Hey, let's talk.
Yeah.
But this is. Do you want to hear a story? We got a cruise, right? Going on a cruise that leaves out of Florida, and she said, "Is it okay if my sister and her husband come with us?" I says, "Can we pay for their trip?" I'm like, you don't tell Alycia. I don't ever say no to. I'm like, well, yeah. We bought a house. We just signed Friday. We're at the Pizza Hut,
Oh,
And I
mazel
said,
tov.
thank you. I think that I know they say that when you buy a house, but I've heard that
Means
word.
congratulations.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, so it came on the market again, and she says, "Well, I'm going to call Mrs. Ballman, and we'll look at it, And she says, "If I like it, can we buy it?" And I said, and I was stupid. I didn't think. I said, "Well, sure, honey, I'll get it for you. Yeah, no problem." So she gave me every bit of 15 minutes to save up for a down payment. I'm like, seriously, I mean, this is how she acts. I'm not saying it's bad to be there. I'm just saying that sometimes when she needs something, I have to get it right away because, well, he told you about the Moya, I think, but she was supposed to live 3 years, maybe 5 if I got both surgeries, right? She's not 7, so I'm not sure she's going to be here tomorrow. So if I don't get it today, we don't do it today, it may not get done. So that's kind of how I look at things.
But yeah, I just hit my 7-year anniversary survival. So I'm the oldest person in the country with my illness.
Wow.
Yeah. So
And she's
God is so good.
And she's the oldest person in the country that's been married to me, too. I mean, has survived. Oh,
Go back to your game.
Well,
Well,
that's the good work.
I will say that I am really happy that you're buying Charlotte Ballman's house because I put a contract in on that house. I took it off the market for 2 months, and then the bank was like, "I need this much in down payment," and I was a little short, and so I backed out, and I've been feeling guilty about it ever since.
Wow, they're
So
buying
I'm glad
that house? Wow. Okay.
they're
Cool.
buying the house that I put a contract on. Yeah.
We have an expression that's bashert. That means like that it was meant to be.
Yeah, Bashert.
Bashert.
Yeah, I took it off.
that's what Alycia always, I don't she say for sure, but she says things like, "That's God's will," which is about the same thing, right?
Yeah, same thing.
Yep. Amen.
Justin, I was saying, you got to get my background story on here someday because it's an interesting one. Because I was Christian, then I faded away, and then she shows up, and it's actually very entwined with Alicia's. Well, I don't know if you know her whole story, but it's entwined with her. The entwining of my coming back to Christ. I mean, she didn't witness to anything, but it involves about the time we met. And it's kind of interesting, and I was saying what's funny about it is that in a way, a lot of things with you, you're a prime example of how I am, I come across as maybe dangerous, to people. And then, Alicia's like, I'm not worried about it. She ignored me. I like blew her off the first time we met. Probably she turned to my mom and said, and basically said, "What just happened?" And my mother said, "You just met my son." And then she explained that I'm not, at that time I was very like, "Don't bother me. You're going to mess up your life by getting involved in mine," was kind of my attitude. "Don't get near me because no matter what happens, it's not going to turn out well for you." And that's how I felt about everybody. I mean, this doesn't work. Nothing worked out well for anybody ever being near me. It seemed like at that time. And it's a long story, but this one just kept coming back for more. I'm like, you couldn't get rid of her, And then when I asked her to marry me, I had to tell her in advance because she wanted to get married so bad, but she couldn't believe that I would want to marry her. Now, who would not want to marry her? I mean, you know her. I mean, I have to, she's married, right? Don't propose, okay? It seems that way. I mean, I'm just kidding.
That's adorable.
But no, to be honest, as wonderful as a woman as she is, and Jessica, Davey, and you said you saw it when she met me. We were, and may still be, very polar opposites in that respect. I will help you my wife. We just helped a man yesterday, and we help people alongside the road. I give a lot of money away, but people don't realize that I will give you the shirt off my back, but I'm not going to stand there and hug you. I'm not going to hug you. I'm not going to cry for you. I'm just going to say, "Oh, well, you need $1,000 to get your car going. Here's $1,000. But if you want me to cry over like your situation, I'm just going to change your tire and get you down the road. Okay, I'll solve the problem, but I'm not going to cry over it. I'm not going to worry about you." Yeah, I mean, she gets cars from people that I never got a car for anybody help along the road. But she gets cars. "Oh, you and your husband are so wonderful." I always scratch out the husband part, in the letter. I said, "They're lying there. I know they're liars."
Well, anybody that knows Alycia is a lucky person.
That's true. Now you notice,
Well, thank you.
LeAnne, you notice he did not say anybody that knows Alycia and Garnett is like, he said Alycia. There's a point there. There's a very good point there. I come along, they're still lucky, even though you have to get me in the process.
That is lucky.
Yeah. All right. Well, happy Hag Sameah and
Yes.
happy Easter.
And Justin, I just realized that from now on, when you do interviews, she's gonna have to wear a red hat, a red thing, and I'm gonna have to play video games and a red shirt behind her.
And it's really nice to see you and not just the back of your head today. So
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize I was on. I would have erased me. I would have made it so I didn't appear on that had I known that was happening. But nobody even bothered to mention to me. I mean, I didn't know till the day I was in that video because I heard him say I was going to listen to it because I really hadn't remembered the interview. I was ignoring her, trying to stay out of it. I heard there's somebody in the screen. I'm like, how am I in the screen? There's back in my head the whole thing. I'm like, why didn't you say something? I would have taken care of that. I mean, put a screen in between, blocked it out on the screen, filtered it out, whatever. I mean, there's no need for me to back my head to be in an interview, but that's okay. I mean,
It was kind of unplanned. It was just during COVID, and we just did it.
Yep, that's right.
I can do background. I could put backgrounds in the computer that are just virtual, block all that out. See,
we don't want to block you out, Gar. We like your conversation. We like your. We love you.
You are going to edit this. I mean, I'm talking to you. This is going to be edited. I don't want to see this on an interview here.
No, we're live. This is out there.
You're live, honey. It's out there.
Are you kidding me? You didn't tell me
this is live.
You said you're recording. I just didn't look. Everything in the room, I know what I am. I mean, this is for you guys.
This is the best.
You wife. I am on there. Do you realize what you've just done?
Turn around.
I still late.
go, you guys. Bye.
All right.
Oh, this is so
Love you.
Love you too. Love you all.
Thanks
for being part of the show, Gar. I love you.
This is horrible.
All right. Bye, Alycia.
Bye-bye. Love you guys.
You said it was going to be edited, okay? I thought that meant you were filming it now. You're going to edit me out at the end. I would not have said a word. Oh, my God.
It helped. This is fantastic. I love it. All right. I'll see you later, Alycia.
Love
you, honey. Bye-bye.
My wife, you have gotten me.